Ida Lorenzo, the woman who's been dubbed as Skirt Karen on social media. And Ida, well, since then, she's been arrested. She made a GoFundMe. Yes, she really did make a GoFundMe for herself. And she also learns what happens when you thought you were in the right, but really in the end, what you did was sexual battery.
I happen to work for the state, and if I have to watch your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS.
I will call CPS. Oh man, that conviction that she has when she's saying it. Now, before we get to Ida Lorenzo and the GoFundMe, the consequences of her actions and what happened to her, let's talk about the timeline really quick, because Ida Lorenzo, on March 4, 2024, she was hired as the legal secretary at the Utah Attorney's General Office. And you guys were like, why is this important? Oh, it's because she makes it important. We'll get there. Ida Lorenzo, she's 49 years old, and the incident actually happens about a month and a half after she was hired at this new job. You guys ever been to Sakura before? It is a Japanese hibachi restaurant. Sakura was a part of my childhood and teenage years. You have a chef that cooks everything for you. You get to choose your fried rice, your protein choice, and they do all these cool things. You know, they spin the egg around, they do the fire flame stuff. It's really cool, okay? They do the whole like ding, 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 ding. Anyways, it's an experience. Okay, you gotta go there to experience it. Also, I had a bunch of friends that used to work at Sakura, and it was great to have them work there and give us some free drinks. Okay, I'm digressing because I think I'm just hungry now. Let's go back to Ida Lorenzo. So anyways, the incident happens at a Sakura restaurant. Everyone's waiting for their table. They're in like the lobby area where they're waiting to be seated. So Ida's sitting there, not minding her own business, and she noticed there's a group of teens. Now, amongst one of the teens is a teenager girl who she thought was a minor, who isn't, by the way. She was 19 years old at the time, but Ida thought, this girl's a minder. Oh my God, she's wearing this short mini skirt and all of her stuff is hanging out. I gotta go and do something. So Ida goes up there righteously, and she said she told the teenage girl that her stuff is hanging out and nothing was done. Now, the teenage girl, she rebuts this later on because she said that she was wearing shorts underneath it. There's no way anything could be hanging out underneath her skirt. But what they both agree on, the teenage girl and Ida, they agreed that Ida touched her skirt and pulled it down. And as this is happening, one of the teenage girl's friends is recording all of this, and this gets posted on TikTok the next day on April 21st. Ida learns about this TikTok and how it's going viral. So what does she do? She calls 911. She calls 911 and tells the dispatch, well, excuse me, I hold a very serious position with the state, and the video has caused a threat on my life. That was in the probable cause affidavit. So, you know, she comes in the next day, and that's where we get the first body cam and her side of the story.
So these little girls have continued to incite a mob, and I've been harassed all day. Not only did they took it down from St. George Post and her Facebook, but now she put it on Instagram, and now she put it on TikTok.
The goal is to get somebody fired, something like that. They
continue to tag this guy and reach out to this guy to find, you know, my personal private information. Sure. And all of my stuff is usually private anyway. I don't normally disseminate my stuff out there. But
in the TikTok video, you can see Ida flashing what seems to be like her state badge at the teenage girl that has her job title, probably where she works at, her first, her last name. It's like, oh, I don't normally disseminate my stuff, but here I am flashing my badge just so it can show the girls that I am in a position of authority. You have to listen to me.
Okay, let me do it. I happen to work for the state, and if I have to watch your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS.
Okay, so she works for the state, and then she's threatening to call CPS. I'm not too sure who Ida is trying to LARP as, or it seems like she was just trying to throw whatever she could at these teenage girls, even if it didn't really make sense.
Particular situation, I told them who I was because not only were there minors involved that were all seated around me, but my son was present as well. And so that's the only reason why I was like, listen, you know, charges can like happen. You're hanging out.
And I feel like as she's describing everything to the officer, as she's going through the process of explaining this, even to her, she's starting to realize, oh shit, does this actually make sense? What am I actually saying? Let me just see if I can do this on the fly. And I think even to the officer, he's a little bit confused about this situation because she seems like she's sort of self-snitching on her. She has admitted that she did touch the girl by pulling the skirt down. And I think at this point is when she realizes, oh, wait a second, is the officer not gonna be on my side? Am I screwed now?
The fact that you did touch her skirt, she can claim, if she wants, she can claim sexual battery, right? Mm-hmm. She hasn't. There's no legal investigation right now on either of you. Nobody's in trouble right now for any of that stuff, but it would have to be founded, right, on both ends, right? We know that you saw this, but we don't have any video evidence of her hanging out. We don't have any.
And I think at this point, police didn't collect any evidence yet because Ida called yesterday. Now she's coming in. I think this is the same day that 7 of the teenagers called in to report about Ida, but they haven't gotten the footage from the restaurant yet, so they don't really know what exactly went down objectively.
The high school ball.
Did you think she was a minor?
Yes, I did. I actually thought she was, and that's why I was like,
I just don't understand. I don't understand why you went up and touched her.
I didn't touch her as a person. Like,
I mean, you could find it.
This is where she thought she was connecting with the officer, and she was about to add more to her story, but then the officer was like, "But I don't understand why you would touch her." And she's like, "Oh."
I mean, you can find it. But you see how that looks, right?
I got a standing ovation from everyone that was seating behind me.
That's totally beside the point legally.
I want to see the Sakura video footage. Did she really get a standing ovation at the very end when she went up there, did the righteous thing, and she dealt with the evil by getting up there bravely and yanking that teenage girl's skirt down? Oh, I'm saving the eyes of the minors. I'm saving the eyes of all the adults here who couldn't say anything. I don't know. I just imagine in her head, she just saw it as like, everyone's like, "Oh, Ida." Oh, my dog's scared right now. Okay, sorry, Cheryl. Let me stop clapping.
Because I told her that her parts were hanging out. And then when nothing was being done and all the little kids behind me were just staring, that's when I proceeded to cover. And I was trying to dial. I mean, you see me on the video where I have my phone in hand and I'm trying to dial, but I couldn't even dial. And then that's when the owner was coming up. So it's all
I understand that
perception.
there's inappropriateness with how she's dressed. I can totally understand that portion. I can understand.
Let's go back to the video and watch what Ida is trying to describe to the police officer. Did it really happen the way that she's describing it?
We'll call CPS.
Do it.
Yeah, go for it right now.
She's over 18.
She is 19 years old.
You don't get to touch her. You don't get to touch her. You don't get to touch her. You can come up and talk to her, but you do not get to touch her.
Really?
We would love for you to call the police.
Go
Go ahead and call the police.
Why are you calling the police?
It seems like to me she could have called 911 or whoever it was that she was going to call CPS, but she probably decided not to at that moment because she realized what a frivolous claim it was and how she was probably in the wrong. But did she want to admit that she was in the wrong? No, because she was probably really stubborn at this point and her ego was at stake. And the ovation, she's got to think about the standing ovation that's soon to come. And so now it's the next day. At this point, we have another body cam footage of the teenager and her friends who witnessed the whole thing. They come in and they speak to law enforcement. Here's their side of the story.
Did that, and then she touches me, or she does that, and then she says, "You're underage, you should probably hide that. If you think I'm underage, why are you touching a minor at all? Especially if you think I don't have underwear on."
Yeah, the logic wasn't there.
No.
When the first time, so she never said anything, you turned around, when the first touch, was that just skirt or was that your body?
No, that was my body and my
And remember, Ida said she touched just the skirt and she started doing that weird spinning maneuver thing when she was trying to explain to the police officer. Is Ida lying?
I mean, you can find it, but you see how that looks, right?
So my perspective was, because I had a perfect view of it. She's sitting on the bench right here, and it looked like she got up and said something to her husband or the dude that she was with, handed him something, and then she just sassily walked right up to her, and I don't think she said anything. She just pulled the skirt down, then says something, and then walks back. And then that's when I told her, I was like, "Hey, she just pulled her skirt down, that was weird."
And then we all started talking.
Yeah, so then there's this group, they're talking, they're saying this stuff, they're all looking at her for probably maybe 80 seconds, 90 seconds. And then she gets up again, comes over, and that's when they started going back and forth.
We now have both sides of the story, but even if you were to discredit the teenage side of the story and only go with Ida's side, and trust me, she's gonna throw some accusations at the teens in her GoFundMe, but even if you were to take Ida's side of the story, I mean, she's already told law enforcement that 1, she thought it was a minor, 2, that she put her hands around the minor skirt and tried to pull the skirt down. It just looks really bad for her. Just really bad. Ida comes back the next day. This is about 4 days after the initial incident. And this is when she is surprised to find out that she's being arrested.
Because there's video footage and because of the claims made, and I have to protect victims, today you're going to be placed under arrest for sexual battery. Okay? So So that's the unfortunate side of all this.
You're arresting
Yeah,
me?
you're right now, you are under arrest, okay? So you'll just face my sergeant and you put your hands behind your back.
Don't reach in your purse, please.
No.
That side, y'all catch her side right there? On April 25th, Ida was charged with sexual battery, a Class A misdemeanor, up to 1 year in jail and a $2,500 fine. I did read somewhere that she did post bail quite immediately. Let's see what happens afterwards. Oh, I forgot to mention that on that same day that she was charged, she received a termination letter from that job that she was waving around in front of the teenage with the badge and everything. Oh, I'm with the state, blah, 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 blah. Well, she was fired from that job and she was only working there for less than 2 months. This is what the termination letter says. I am writing to inform you that you have not passed your probationary employment period successfully. And today, April 25th, 2024, you are being separated from state employment with the Attorney General's office. Your non-compliance with policies and standards related to performance contributed to this decision. The termination letter states. But let's see what Ida has to say about this, because she made a GoFundMe. When did she make this GoFundMe? Let's see. This was created on May 26, 2024, so roughly about a month after her arrest and her being charged. Let's see what she has to say about everything that happened. Hello, and thank you for inquiring of our fundraiser. Due to circumstances leading to cyberbullying, harassment, intimidation, my career and income were placed on hold for only a very short period, which is very interesting because it seems like they terminated her, not that her job was like, hey, we're gonna put you in a probationary period to see what happens, and then maybe you'll get to keep your job, maybe you won't. But it seems like they terminated her. I don't know, that's what all the news outlet says. Significantly less than I imagined. It seems like she throws this in because she doesn't want people who are going after to feel like, oh, if they've won, at the end of the day, yes, it was only on hold just for a very short period of time, and it was only less than I imagined. A strong circle of supporters requested that we create a means for us to be recipient of their support, and we appreciate the kindness gratefully. The funds raised were used to buy groceries, pay for gas, make car payments, pay your housing, and buy necessities. I am a single mother who survived a huge characterization attack, a widespread of misinformation, which ensued out of right judgment, shaming, severe harassment by the masses in a court of public opinion. It was amazing to survive the circumstances despite irresponsible news reporting and broadcasting, mass dissemination of biased information by private individuals, and at times outright lies, but some seeking to promote a personal agenda or their own social media accounts without regard to the fact that I am a human being just the same. Here's the thing. What you did was record it. It was posted on TikTok. Not only that, we had your version of the events on the body cam footage. And were you any better when you're explaining yourself on there? No, you weren't. And then we had the teenage side of the story as well. My family remains grateful for all those who gathered in numbers to show various forms of support financially, emotionally, and by all other means. We are glad to report we survived it all and came out feeling stronger, more resilient as a family, and with more blessings because of this occurrence. Doing the right thing prevails, even at the expense of exercising a level of temporary setbacks and humbleness as a result of good intentions. She really is just buttering herself up in here. Thank you all for visiting her page, and may this encourage others who are or may experience something similar to remain mentally and emotionally strong while drawing close to a strong support system. You too can prevail. That's what she writes. That's her GoFundMe. So on June 19th, 2024, about a month after making her GoFundMe, which by the way raised $1,570, it says on here, she had an initial court appearance. I don't really have too much information about that initial court appearance. They probably just read her, maybe her charges or something like that. But on June 28th, so about less than 10 days after her initial court appearance, assuming that it still happened, she does a GoFundMe update, and here's what the update says. Thank you all who have donated, messaged, and reached out to my family and sharing your support in various ways. It's amazing to receive all forms of kindness and support from friends, strangers across the world. With an abundance of gratitude for your generosity to the large community of those choosing positivity in all form amongst a sea of negativity. That's the beauty of the circumstances, because it leaves a stamp of love and hope. There still exists a greater amount of goodness which we can all share and benefit from. Abundance of thanks. So she shares a little update there. Now, what happens to Ida shortly after this? About 2 days after posting her update, and by the way, she has closed the donations. So about 2 days after posting that update, Ida has a plea deal where she has pled no contest. They did let her plead to a reduced Class B misdemeanor. She will not get sentenced for a year as long as she complies with the terms of agreement and commits no new offenses. And then also, they made her go through a mental health evaluation. One of her conditions was also to not contact the victim as well. And then afterwards, after 1 year, if she's behaving, the case will be dismissed against her. But man, she had to plead to a lesser offense, basically admitting that, okay, you know what, actually what I did, it was wrong. Yes. Now, it has been reported that the victim did support the agreement. And I think it's fair. Has Ida spoken since her plea agreement? No, she hasn't. She has an attorney that they reach out to and said that Ida declined to comment on the plea deal. Let's see what happens after a year from now if Ida's going to decide to speak out about this. And then maybe she'll see herself as a martyr still. Like, I was protecting the children, the minors, the adults in the room and everything like that. So that's what happened with Ida. Ida Lorenzo sure learned her lesson to maybe, to not be touching other people. Okay?